All right, good morning, good day, and welcome to another edition of our Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam. And today we're looking at the 2016, just concluded 2016 Olympics, which took place in 5 Brazilian cities. It was actually tagged Rio 2016, and we're looking at Nigeria's performance, to be specific. Now, Nigeria went to the event, and yes, we came back with only one medal. But then I believe we've learned some lessons, and hopefully the coming tournament in the year 2020, which will be taking place in Tokyo, perhaps we might put some of the things we learned to good use and perhaps move forward from where we are at the moment. However, joining me this morning to look at this, we have Seun Panikaide, Seun Olukaide. He joins us from Oshogbo um, in Osun State, southwest Nigeria. Thanks for coming on the program.
Welcome.
Of course. And then we also have Francis Edo Osage, who joins us from Zurich, that's in Switzerland. Francis, thanks for coming as well on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And then we have Ben Cosmos. Ben is joining us from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Ben, thanks for coming on the program as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sure. And then we also have a contributor. Even though we still haven't been able to establish proper contact with him, but we do see you, and we, of course, will be taking some of your comments. You can just drop them down in the chat box, and we'll also take a look at some of them. But for those of you watching on our YouTube stream, also you can also be part of the program. Just tweet at us using the hashtag #ChannelsBeam, and we'll also collate those. And yes, look at them. But then let's just set the ball rolling. Seun, let me come to you. I mean, what would you say was your takeaway from this event? I mean, a 3-week event that Nigeria fully participated in Rio.
Come again. What was the question?
Okay, I'm like, what would be your own takeaway? I mean, how would you put Nigeria's performance? How would you rate our performance at the games?
Well, the first thing is we lack preparations. We lack adequate preparations for events like this. Not to mention that the only sport in which we have ever been interested is football. Football has been the only focus since 1996, if I may refer to that year. That's the only sport we've ever been interested in. No one cares about the athletics. No one cares about the indoor games. No one cares about track and field events. So every focus is centered on football, and that impacts on the overall performance as recorded by several countries at the Olympics. So usually we've never had adequate preparations for these events, and usually if we fail at football, which is becoming a consistent thing for us over the years, then it means we come back with nothing. And this is exactly what we have now, which is why this country as a whole, we have just one medal, bronze, on which we have all set ourselves and sat on, and we seem satisfied. But to be quite honest, I'm not pleased with our performance at this edition of the Olympics, because a lot of countries came with a lot of young people, and they made impacts. They did wonderful things. They did wonderful work. And these are youngsters. We have a lot of them here, and they could do better than us. But we chose not to pay attention to these things. And all these handouts that had to do with embezzling funds meant for the Olympics, I mean, it's really poor, and it was actually very disappointing. We had a very terrible outcome, and I wish that in the next 4 years we should do better than this.
All right, I believe that's the hope of every Nigerian, that it should get, or it should get better than it was at this tournament. So just moving forward now, Francis, let me come to you. Seun was talking about how so much we have dwelt on football. Like he says, like since 1996, that's like 10 years ago, and ignored other sports, perhaps, which is why we haven't made so much headway in other sports. What's your own take? I mean, sorry, Francis, if you can come again.
My own take on our performance and the fact that we have dwelt too much on football. Uh, for me, it's very sad because as early as last year, we had athletes raising an alarm, making statements as to their treatment, as to their how prepared they were, or how unprepared they were, and it's something that should have been addressed immediately. And many people would say, okay, it's the minister's fault, it's the federal government, but state governments have to they have a key role to play from inter-house sports in schools. They have to look at other sports. People do long jump. There are people who are tall who do long jump. There are people who play basketball. People play lawn tennis. People play badminton. All these other sports are there, and we go there and we compete in a few sports. It's really sad that only football has, taken the main position or the key position. And personally, I feel that governments at state and local level have a much more important role to play than the federal government, for example. Because if a state government says, okay, we're going to focus on, let's say in Delta State, we're going to focus on kayaking, for example. We had somebody who was doing kayaking for us, who came from the US but Nigerian. We have a lot of people doing, okay, they might just be doing canoeing, but if you take it serious, if you say, okay, I know a couple of businessmen who are also interested in sports, let's create an environment for them to come in, invest some money in infrastructure, and see how we can develop. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. We should be doing better at events like this at the Olympics. We should be doing much, much better. And I was really, really disappointed.
Well, I believe many Nigerians also share in your disappointment. However, you're bringing a new twist to the whole discussion. You're saying the states and local governments should also be held responsible for such preparations. Now, talking about, I believe that would be like a whole probably 8 to 10 year term, 10-year plan. However,
Exactly.
Ben, so Ben, let me just come to you. Different perspectives from Sean and from Francis. But how do you see what we're going through at the moment? Sorry, just hold on a bit.
If you fail to plan, then you're bound to fail. And so this is not our first outing in the Olympics. We have seen several Olympics, Atlanta, Beijing, and the rest of them up to this moment. And yet we have a sports ministry who, at the end of every Olympic, cannot sit down with the organizers, the LOC, our local organizing committee that is in charge of the Olympics, to look how they can fashion out 1 or 2 games and add into the number of sports we have. The gymnastic issue, I mean, we have seen the badminton. We can, I mean, a lot of games that we need to bring out and add it more to what we have. And we have, and if you look at all these games there, and they are all interesting games that people will always want to sit down and watch. I took my time to watch most of the Olympics and the games, and I begin to ask myself questions: if what is really wrong with us as a nation? If you look at the huge achievements the United States has recorded so far in this Olympic, it's because of the number of their size, and the number of athletes they provided, they came with. How many athletes do we have representing us, and how many is US, China? Russia was banned actually, but how many are these countries producing? And we go with only a handful of few people, and yet we talk of unemployment in the country. Why we have a whole number of sport that, if you look at the way Nigeria is today, every region has a particular sport that you can, when you go in that particular region, you'll be able to figure out a particular star in each region. In terms of bow and arrow shooting, you can get it very well from the north, the canoeing, the swimming from the south, and I think the whole of Nigeria, only Delta State has somehow tried a lot in developing her own athletics, and followed by what the Delta State, the former administration, has done. Apart from them, I don't think there's any state government that has really come out to show support for this athletics apart from football. And even if you watch the football we love so much, we have not even been able to appreciate our players, our own athletics. How far have we gone to appreciate them? Even before they traveled from US to Brazil, we saw a lot of things that came up. Nigeria stranded is on sport news. I mean, on internet, BBC, you see it. Nigeria is so embarrassing, and you begin to wonder when this Olympic is a 4 year period of time. What is wrong with our own LOC? Those planning this game for us. What is wrong with the system? So you find out that a whole lot of things is just out there, you know. And secondly, when you don't have the right people, when you don't have the right people in the place of position, this kind of nonsense will continue to occur. It just occurred to me that this same corruption we are talking about is in the sports ministry is a part of is another sector that if you open it, you begin to see some dirty secrets that is in that ministry which nobody has really looked into, you know. So it's just about the system. The system isn't working. When we have a system that is working and we have someone who is committed to do his or her job, we'll go to the Olympics and we'll smile. At least Nigeria is up to going to the Olympics and coming out at least with 10 medals. That means we have won nothing. But at the end today, we are even celebrating bronze medals. Well, thank God for the guys, considering the condition and what happened. They went there and they came out. They came back with a bronze medal. And we all are happy. I'm also happy actually because when I go out, friends tell me, "Oh, you're Nigerian. Nigerians has just won." I say, "Yes, I'm happy." They just say congratulations. So I'm also happy. And also, if you look at the way we treat our own athletes, the many sports we have, we participate in, we don't even treat them well. We don't even take proper care of them. We find out that Nigerian athletes, just in Bahrain, you can see the Yoruba girl. I mean,
All right.
starting for Bahrain and the rest of them. So it's something, it's a whole lot of issues. Our athletes is going to other nations to participate for them, to represent them. And, you know, you begin to ask yourself, what is wrong? There's something wrong in the system that we need to all fix. We need to all put our hands together and fix it.
All right. Perhaps when you come back from Malaysia, you'd probably help us do some of the fixing of the problems. But then talk to Ru, who unfortunately we can't actually hear or see. He's been putting his own contributions in the chat box, and he says if sports is not a priority, then why allocate and make the sum of 2 billion naira available? It says we depend on luck to take us anywhere, but then luck can only take us to 78th place. To move forward, we do not need old men to mess things up. We don't need the Minister of Sports arriving the venue before participants. And he adds that if President Buhari doesn't sack the Minister of Sports and directors and sanctions all sports federations, I believe he means officials, then we are jokers. I want to believe we in this context is Nigeria. But Fred, I said Fred, I'm sure. Let me also just come back to you. Like Toturu said, I mean, the sum of over 2 billion naira was released, you know, was made available, perhaps for the sports ministry. I wish you could clarify that. But here we are. There was just like Ben also just said. Now we had issues of getting our athletes down to the venue, issues of allowances and what have you. How do we go past all these?
How do we what?
How do we go past where we are?
Oh, there's a huge rot in the systems. Corruption is one of them, and incompetence is one of them as well. What I've observed in the Nigerian atmosphere is we always seem to put a square peg in a round hole. We have in the sports industry, we have sports. It's an activity. There are a series of activities that involve huge passion. You have to be very passionate to be a sports person, and you have to be a patriot as well. Also, you have to be very dedicated. You have to be very committed to whatever sport you're involved in. It's passion. It requires passion. And in the scheme of things, going by what goes on in NFF and the sports ministry and the National Olympic Committee and all those other departments under the Ministry of Sports, you find that you have a lot of people who are not committed to the Nigerian dreams in sport. You have a lot of unqualified people holding key positions in every part of the Ministry of Sports. And then when you have a collection of people who are not committed, a collection of people who are not qualified, a collection of people who don't have passion, who are dispassionate about the Nigerian dream in sports, then you find that the corruption comes in easily because it's quite easy for you to manipulate, to embezzle, to misappropriate funds meant for things that other people are passionate about that you don't even share the same sentiment. So now the issue of um, dealing with corruption, people making away with money meant for sports, cannot be properly fought until we begin to appoint people who have the passion for sports, until we begin to employ people, until we begin to appoint people who have the desire to achieve excellent goals for the sporting ministry of the country. Until that happens, we can never be rid of corruption in the ministry. Now, the same route that goes on in the Federal Ministry of Sports, the same thing that goes down to NFF is the same thing that goes down to the National Olympic Committee. Now, how does the Ministry of Sports investigate, call to order the National Olympic Committee when they themselves are embroiled in corruption? So you cannot come to me with soiled hands and demand for me to be and demand equity from me. It's not going to happen. So you yourself have to be clean for you to bring me to book. The Ministry of Sport cannot go around asking people to be corrupt when the ministry itself is embroiled in corruption. So this is the problem that we have at the moment. Now you have a lot of people. You have okay, like the other day, the Minister of Sports tweeted something about the Nigerian basketball team game, and He made this tweet 2 days, oh sorry, 5 days after the actual game was played. Such is the Minister of Sport that we have. Now, if you have such Minister of Sport who doesn't even give a care in the world about the Nigerian basketball team game, how do you expect such man to demand accountability from the National Olympic Committee? How do you expect such man to demand accountability from the National Football Federation? So the issue of corruption, mismanaging funds, is a completely different ballgame. But first, we need to appoint competent people who are very qualified to handle these positions. Now, when you even appoint competent people, qualified people to hold these positions, then you find that even the sport itself, every sport in Nigeria is going to undergo an overhaul. We have a lot of young people who could play football. Go to the streets, go to Nigerian streets, you find it. But the thing is, you appoint a coach today or a technical director, and his friends come with lists of people. This is the son of the social director. This is the nephew of social director. This is the niece of social director. And then you find out that you have a cloud of people who don't even have the talent to drive the sporting ministry of the country forward. You go to the street, I can bet you that if you go down the street, if you go to villages, you find very excellent swimmers. But the thing is, who is going to give them a chance? And until you get somebody who is very qualified, who is competent, who has a passion to lead the country, to lead the sporting ministry of the country, that we are not going to go very far. So well, the issue of corruption on ministries are different. It's a different ballgame. But first, we need qualified and competent hands to handle every department in the ministry of sports. National Olympic Committee, National Football Federation, the Nigeria basketball team is the association now. I'm not sure. So, and most of us don't even know about this sport because we haven't actually had people who have made giant strides in these sports. So, first thing that we have to do, get a round hole first, and then the rest will follow suit.
All right, we have to wait and see how that plays out. But Najib Bello, Najib just joined us from Lagos, Nigeria. Najib, if you can hear me, good morning and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Victor. I've been having problem with my connection.
Uh,
Sorry for coming late.
no, that's not a bother. I'll come back to you in just a moment. Francis, let me just come back to you to further shed more light on the issue you talked about earlier, which is the development plan we're supposed to put in place. How do you think we should be going about this?
The commissioners in the state, because I believe every state in the country has commissioners of sports or youth or something in that aspect. They should be looking at, hey, we have Commonwealth Games coming up, we have Olympics coming up, but we have one coming up in 4 years, we have one coming up in 8 years, we have Commonwealth Games coming up in 10 years. What do we want to achieve in 10 years' time? If we have a plan, if we have a goal, okay, we want to go into XYZ sport, we want to go into rowing, and we want to go into long jump or triple jump, then they would start to invest in those areas. They would start to, they need to bring more publicity into it. They need to celebrate people more. We need to celebrate people more as Nigerians. Recently, I discovered that Fasuba, um, he ran 9.85 for Nigeria and is currently working in the logistics department of the UK Defense Ministry. Why? Why would somebody who ran for Nigeria, why would we allow such brain drain to happen? Somebody like that has experience and has knowledge of what should be done in terms of athletics. Somebody like that should be brought back easily and say, hey, you've been through this. What can we do better? How can we plan? Now, bringing it locally to the commissioners, to the local governments, when we have these competitions at state level where schools come and compete, it should not just be a one-off thing where, okay, we give them a plastic cup, a plastic medal, and that's pretty much it. It should be something that's celebrated. It should be something that's publicized. It's something that should be encouraged. There are big, quote unquote, big men who invest money in hotels or in resorts and other things, who also have a passion for sports, but they might not know how to go about it. Fine, they don't know how to go about it. Approach them, draw out a plan, and say, hey, for example, in Switzerland here, if I walk maybe 800 meters, there will be a swimming pool, a public swimming pool. If I walk another distance, there'll be a public park. If I walk another distance, another public swimming pool. Why? Because they encourage people to be active. They encourage people to be engaged in sports. For example, every child must be able to swim. Not that they are going to drown or anything, but they must be involved in sport, one sport or the other. In Nigeria, it's not seen as a necessity. It's not seen as something that is very important, which is wrong. We should, children should be mandated, or the parents should make sure that their children are involved in sports in schools. At school level, it should be very, very important. When we have inter-school games, when we have inter-house sports, it should be something that should be incorporated gradually so that in 6 years' time, we'll see somebody who was 12 in 2016. In 6 years' time, the person is 18 and the person is already doing exports. For example, if you look at the American vault champion, Simone Biles, she's 19, 18 or 19 years old, and she won 3 golds and 2 bronze. She won 3 gold and 2 bronze, and she's 18, 19 years old. You can see pictures of when she was little. You can see videos of when she was little. You can see a progression. You can see that she moved from one level to the next. In Nigeria, you just see these people, they just show up when it's time for Olympics, or they just show up when it's time for a competition. Where's the tracking? Where's the track record? Where is, okay, they were here at Lobby Stars, or they were here at Kano Pillars, and then they moved here, and then they moved here, and you have pictures and videos and records of what they did, the records they broke, the times they ran. We don't have any of those things. So when we have accurate data, it is very important. Data is
Oh,
very important in athletics. When it
all
comes to
right.
swimming, we have pools, there will be no lifeguard, or people have to go to private pools. It shouldn't be this way. There should be a plan for 6 years, a plan for 12 years. But the problem is the way our politics is, people plan 2 years. What can they do? What flashy program can they show off for the next elections? We have to go beyond that. And going back to the point of the previous speaker, I can't remember your name, apologies. But he talked about
Sure.
Sheldon talked about incompetence, and incompetence for me is worse than corruption, because you can have somebody who is very nice, uh, a very nice person, but the person doesn't know what they're doing. It will still fail. It will still fail. No matter how nice the person is, it will still fail. There might be no corruption, but incompetence is very bad. For example, England went for the Euros, a very good squad, but the manager, with all due respect to him, his tactics, everything was really off. Portugal didn't have the best squad, but they won. They won because their manager was ready, because they had players that were committed, or Leicester that won the league. They didn't have the best players, but they had a manager that was competent. They had a manager that knew the tactics. They had players that bought in to the idea. What idea is the Ministry of Sports selling to the people? It's
Well,
an idea of arrogance.
we have to wait and see what idea they'll be selling in the future. But then Najib has been on board just a few minutes ago. He was actually giggling while you made some of your statements, but I wasn't really sure why he was giggling or shaking his head. Perhaps we should hear from the horse's mouth himself. Najib,
Yeah, Victor, good morning once more.
good morning again.
Myself, I think I was very happy when you mentioned education, our schools. I believe sports is part of education. In most Nigerian schools, they don't have sports facilities. Go to the schools, even the big private schools you see around you that charge maybe ₦1 million per term, they don't have a football field. But actually, maybe in Nigeria, maybe less than 10 have swimming pools, standard swimming pools. So the thing is, our government, the Ministry of Education, has to ensure, the Ministry of Education has to ensure that, okay, the Ministry of Education has to ensure that schools that are opening, before it opens new schools, those schools must have sporting facilities. Hello, Victor, are you there?
I am. Go ahead, Najib.
So they can't just license schools that only teach book.
It seems Najib is having issues with
Maybe
his.
those schools have to have sporting facilities.
Okay, Najib, can you please come again? We actually lost you for a while there due to internet glitch.
I said schools that are being licensed by the government, they need to have sporting facilities. Sports has to be very much part of our education in Nigeria. For a while, it hasn't been so. So when private individuals want to start schools, we have to ensure that their schools are well equipped for sports. Hello?
I'm very much with you.
Okay, so going forward, it's the Ministry of Education that has to make sure that it is working to ensure that there's no more a situation where someone builds a big building with classrooms and libraries and says, oh, I want to start a school, license me. You know, they have to check for the sporting facilities. Do you have a gym? Do you have a basketball court? Do you have a football field and other equipment and facilities? If not, you don't go to the school. Then the government schools themselves, they have to do the same. The government schools, I went to an FGC in the north. I don't know. Things have gotten so bad there that I'm not sure that they do inter-house sports and all those stuff anymore because the facilities are no longer there. So that is one area that we have to look into. In terms of, I've not even answered the question of how we did at the Olympics. Really, Victor, we did abysmal, as in we did so bad. You know, when you won no medal in the last Olympics, which was 4 years ago, you won no medal at all. Then you spent 4 years preparing for a country like Nigeria with about 170 million people. You spend 4 years preparing to go back to this place, and you are coming back with a bronze. It is very saddening. It is very, very demeaning to our people. So it's not an improvement at all. Because if we're talking about improvement, we've done better before. So it is very terrible what happened to us at the Olympics. Forgot our kids, did all sorts of rubbish stuff, almost got our players stranded in Atlanta. So it was very terrible. But I think moving forward, the Minister of Sports, I don't think he should continue. From the statements he has made, the whole everything, I don't feel that Solomon Dalong should continue as Minister of Sports. Let's have somebody else. We had Bolaji Abdullahi. I don't know, maybe he doesn't belong to this party or that party, but we had somebody who came on board and he knew exactly what he was doing. The improvements we are seeing in the local league right now, he's part of all of that. You know, so we have to be serious. We have to take in the right people. We have to put sports, entrench sports deeply in our educational system. There should be grades for you when you do well in sports. So that's what I have to say.
Oh, so like you said, moving forward, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But one thing is that you and Talk Churu shared the same view. He has also said that we need to change those at the helm of affairs in the sports ministry and all that. But he's also, because we can't actually see or hear him, he's actually been putting his thoughts in the chat box, and he was like, if we knew that investing 2 billion naira in sports can give us returns of 200% in terms of deals, sponsorship, grants, etc., maybe we would take 4 years of preparation more seriously. He also adds that our leaders don't see the need to fund athletes for 3 to 4 years. Why? Maybe if guys like we have here on the Hangout today can convince them. And it says, finally, business-minded people with petrodollars, blue chips, etc. can easily begin to build gyms with standard facilities and equipment for use at a fee. And Nigeria's athletes can compete under the IOC flag. Well, thanks for keeping all these comments coming through, and also still on the education thing. Thankfully, Ben, you are a student and you are studying somewhere in Malaysia. What's it like? What's the education system like now in terms of joining education and sports? What's it like even where you study? Just hold on a bit, please.
Works hand in hand.
Sorry, can you come again?
I said, I'm saying that you can't separate education from sport. They work simultaneously. They work hand in hand, because by the time you're done with your academic works in class, you're also bound to go to the pitch and allow those students who can't, maybe academically they are not well sound enough, for them to also show out their own talent in that particular field. In terms of badminton, like we see how Malaysia have done so well in terms of badminton, they have the world #1, and in fact, despite he won a silver medal, the whole country is still happy, because that is the only sport that they are really hoping on to get a medal, you know, and they have done well. I've seen them bank supporting the sport, and virtually in every public universities you see in this place, there is a badminton court in there. People are sponsoring the game, and it's really booming for them. Everybody wants to be a badminton player here, and so they are really doing well in that aspect. You can't go to a school without seeing a well standard, or from street to street, a particular district, without seeing a well built basketball court, a properly built game center where you have different indoor games happening in there: table tennis, badminton, and the rest of them, hockey. I mean, these games are just there, and they're just there. A lot of games, that indoor games, aquatic games, and the rest of them, they all have this system working. But back home, it's not the same. And I think one thing I think we should do right now is to begin to. I'm not trying to neglect those we have at home, but let's begin to invest in our diasporans, Nigerians in diasporans who have done well in some of these sports, and they are working in various government agencies outside the shores of this country. We should begin to think of how to bring them back home and let them help us to develop this sport, because Number one, we don't even have the standard facility. How many standard swimming pool, Olympic size swimming pool do we have in Nigeria? Go to the national stadium. I don't think we have any. The one in Lagos, I was told last time that the whole place has been covered with green grass and fungi and some kind of fungi growing inside it. And you see, and this is a national stadium and swimming pool that should be a center of sport in all these aquatic games and the rest of them, but we don't have any. I just want someone to just tell me the whole of Nigeria where you can get a standard Olympic size swimming pool that is functioning today. I think we don't have any as big as Nigeria is, so it's a big slap and a big blow to us as a nation. And I think secondly, Solomon Dalong, I don't know what to say. I don't know if I will call for his removal, but I think he should come out openly and apologize to Nigerians and take the blame. That is what we should do. Let him come out. Let him stop defending. I was watching his interview where he was defending. He paid $4,000. He paid these things. The issue of money should not be a problem. This thing has been a long-term problem for us. We have seen players complaining of allowances, coaches complaining. So it's not. In fact, I'm not even surprised that they are complaining allowances because back home salaries has not been paid. You see, so it's not a new thing issue for us. It's something that we have been living with, and I think maybe we'll just enjoy it. But I think that man should just come and apologize on behalf of Nigerians and accept all the whole mistakes and all the whole rubbish that has taken place. I mean, you can see on the BBC, on international media, what they are writing about us. It doesn't speak well of us. This will also scare investors from coming in to invest in even in our own country where we are talking of change. So he should just come out openly and accept his mistake. This is his fault. But if he will be sacked, it's left for the president. He's an APC member. They will play politics with this whole issue. But I know at the end of the day, one or two lower class persons will be fired, and someone will also play politics and get a job for his own boy to be there, because that has been the issue with Nigeria. And so I don't know when this change will come. But all I'm saying is this: let us begin to invest. Let us begin to call our diasporas, those who have participated in some of these sports outside the shores of this country. They will help us. Let us buy the idea. Let's swallow our pride. Call them. Let them come back home and invest in our sport, rather than staying there to invest in another man's land, developing that sport, representing them, and we back home we are just losing.
All right, Ben. Thanks for your comment. But then we're running out of time and we have to wrap it up here. Thanks once again for coming, Ben Cosmos. You joined in from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Francis Edo Osagi, you joined from Zurich. That's in Switzerland. Najib Bello, you joined us from Lagos, Nigeria. And Sheol Olukayade, you joined us from Oshogbo. That's in Osun State. Talk to you joined us from somewhere. I know I really can't place my hands on. You should have probably put that in the chat box, but then you didn't. However, we do, of course, appreciate your comments as well. We made also valid points, just like the other speakers. Thanks to all of you once again for coming on the program and sharing your thoughts and perspectives. But again, it is a Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam, and I'm Victor Matthias.